Legal disclaimer. The information provided during this seminar is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. The presenters are not licensed medical professionals unless explicitly stated otherwise. All discussions, suggestions, and recommendations are based on personal experiences, research, and knowledge of natural remedies. Participants are advised to consult with a qualified healthcare provider or medical professional before making any changes to their diet, lifestyle, or healthcare regimen, including the use of natural remedies discussed during the seminar. Individual results may vary, and the information provided may not be suitable for every individual. By attending this seminar, participants acknowledge and agree that 1. The presenters and organizers shall not be held responsible or liable for any outcomes, direct or indirect, resulting from the use or misuse of the information presented. 2. Attendance and participation in this seminar do not establish a doctor-patient or professional-client relationship between participants and the presenters. 3. The use of the information provided is at the participants' own discretion and risk. This seminar is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All information is shared in good faith, and participants are encouraged to exercise personal judgment and seek professional advice as needed. But, we pray that you will seek be the great physician, and not the witch doctors of Babylon, that cut, burn, and poison the body temple. Revelation 18 verse 23.
I would go to the medicine cabinet and get out the pills and think to myself, if a headache is simply a lack of Excedrin, why don't I have a headache?
The average American is only drinking this amount of water. The average person in China who only drinks 4% of what they need, so about 3/4 of the way. That's how much water the average person in China is drinking.
In taking those 3 needle biopsies of my thyroid, they ascertained that I had cancer, but they couldn't tell what it was.
Okay, let's begin with a prayer as we begin our section on health. Melanie, you want to start this?
Our Father in heaven, as we kneel before you, our minds are drawn to the most holy place where Jesus stands, interceding in behalf of fallen men. We pray, Lord, that you will forgive and cleanse us of all sin and unrighteousness, that we might be engraven on the hands of your dear Son. We pray that today, as we strive to use this holy time when we are to reflect upon the work of salvation and draw closer to you, that we will understand the importance of keeping fit our body temples and for help as we go over the 10 laws of health and the things that you have shared with us through your word and through your servants, that we might be in better health and then be able to serve you with a whole heart. Today we are living in a time, Lord, when there's much sickness, much man-made sickness, when our earth is in a toxic condition. The air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink is contaminated, and we want to be in the best health. So help us as we share the things that have helped us with those who will listen. And we pray that each one of us will take hold of these things and make them a lifestyle that will bring us up to the condition of perfect obedience to your will. And we thank you and bless you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, so let's start with our Bibles. And we want to go to a verse that I would hope that all of you would be familiar with. And that's Psalms chapter 103. And verses 2 and 3, Psalms 103, verses 2 and 3, which says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits." Talk about a benefit package. That best benefit package that you could ever get from a job. Verse 3, "Who forgiveth all thine iniquities, who healeth all thy diseases." And now for me, it's just over a page. Let's go over to Psalm 104 and verse 14. Psalms 104:14. "He causeth the grass to grow for the cattle, and herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth." So there we have those things. And I want to take us now to a little pamphlet that we print. And I guess I can hold it up this way. This is The Place of Herbs in Rational Therapy. This is something that's this document number 1160 for us. We printed it. It can be downloaded off our website, or you can contact us for it through the website. And we want to go to page 8 in here. This is a short little blurb written October 2, 1893. And it says, "As the matter was laid open before me, and the sad burden of the result of drug medication, the light was given me that Seventh-day Adventists should establish health institutions, discarding all these health-destroying inventions, and physicians should treat the sick upon hygienic principles." So, discarding all of these health-destroying inventions. Now, I want to go over to page 10, bottom of the page. It says, "As to drugs being used in our institutions, it is contrary to the light which the Lord has been pleased to give. The drugging business has done more harm to our world and killed more than it has helped or cured." And then down towards the bottom of the page, on page 11 here, it says, "The drug science has been exalted, but if every bottle that comes from every such institution were done away with, there would be fewer invalids in the world today. Drug medication should never have been introduced into our institutions." So you see why we're taking time to do this, because obviously drug medication has been introduced into the Seventh-day Adventist institutions, and they've actually become the leaders. I just thought of it now. Maybe next week I'll do that if I can remember. I've got an article about drugs and how some of the drugs came to be, and Adventist responsibility for that. It's quite amazing. But I didn't dig it out, so I don't have it here available for us today. So what we want to do is...
I need a sticky deal and all.
Write me a note?
Write you a note.
Okay, yes. Thank you, dear. So what we want to do is today is we've decided kind of this week, every week we are going to talk about specifically about one different herb, and we may talk about other herbs as well, but we're going to focus on one. We're going to give a lot of background, what it's good for, how to use it, a lot of detail with that. And so today we've actually got a couple on our list, but one more in particular. And the one that we're going to choose in particular is quite controversial amongst the Adventist circles. So we figured we'd just get it out here right at the beginning. And that herb is cayenne. And the reason why that it is controversial is most Adventist people or background people will find that there are statements in the Spirit of Prophecy that talk about the fiery spices. And so we're going to look at that a little bit and talk about some of those things. But I was debating whether to share this one right now or whether to wait, but I think I'll share it right now. So I was doing some research on this actually last night, and this I found this is letter 9, 1877, paragraph 1. It was written August 21, 1877, because we as well have had an issue with this. We've seen the power of cayenne as an herb, and yet because of some of those things and the way they were stated, made us go question and say, is cayenne something that we should be using? Is it medicinal? Does it have a good purpose? Or is it something that we should set aside? I've seen cayenne literally stop a heart attack with no damage. And it was according to the medical facility the next day when the lady's husband took her there, because he kind of freaked out over that whole issue, tested, they discovered there were certain antibodies that were very active in her blood. She had had a major heart attack, and yet they could find no damage, and they were really confused by it. And so we've seen cayenne do that. Melanie literally walked that lady through.
From 11 p.m. until 2 a.m. She drank 5 teaspoons in a mug of hot water every few...
Heaping teaspoons of the cayenne. And she did it over the phone with her. She
every
walked her
time the
through
pain
it.
was worse, I would say, okay, can you get to the sink and refill your mug with she'd had one of those hot pots going. I said, can you refill your mug, half cold and half the hot pot, and put the cayenne in it? And she did that 5 times from 11 o'clock to 2 a.m. when she said, okay, the pain is less. I'm tired. I need to sleep. So she went to sleep, and I paced the floor for an hour praying for her. And then the next morning when I called, it actually woke her husband up. And she'd been loath to wake him the night before. And so he took her to the hospital. Yes.
What are you talking about now? Which one? I know pain, but what are you talking about? Which herb?
Cayenne. Cayenne in water. Yeah.
Thank you.
So back to this quote that I have. So what Melanie was doing is literally having her make cayenne tea is what she was doing. A strong cayenne tea is what she was doing. So here we have this letter, letter 9, 1877, paragraph 1, August 21, 1877. Dear children, Edson and Emma, your father had a very ill turn yesterday, which greatly alarmed us all. He had been working very hard and very successfully in disposing of difficult matters and taking in hand cases that needed to be managed. He then sat up till midnight writing for review. He seemed very cheerful. Nothing seemed to weigh upon his mind. In the morning, he said he felt rather bad. I prepared a cup of weak red pepper tea. He then came to the table, but seemed to be bewildered. He called for articles he had taken upon his plate and placed the things beside his plate instead of in the plate. We saw that he could not see. This was done with several things. I persuaded him to leave the table, and I placed his feet at once in hot water and bathed his head. And then she went on to talk about calling actually for Dr. Kellogg and them doing some water treatments, and that within a few hours he was fine. So she did the right thing. It sounds to me like he had a mini stroke, a minor stroke. And she gave him cayenne and the red pepper. So debating, I think it isn't going to take a lot of time for this, but maybe what we should do is
First, we've got a little deal of organic cayenne pepper from the store, and it's not that warm. This is a very mild, you could sprinkle it on your food, and if for most people it's not that warm. Here's some African bird peppers we grew. They're not as red as you can see, but
Because some of the peppers were green, but they were...
These are going to be a lot
These
hotter.
will light your fire.
Yes, these are a lot hotter than this red stuff.
So, literally, you take the cayenne, for a heart attack. This is like the emergency herb. This would be our first go-to for a lot of things. And I say cayenne kind of as a general term. I want to read from Back to Eden, Jethro Claus's Back to Eden, page 215. He has a chapter here. And I want you to see there's a lot of different names used for what we just called cayenne. So botanical name, capsicum. Common names, cayenne pepper, red pepper, capsicum, Spanish pepper, bird pepper, or African bird pepper, pod pepper, chilies, chili pepper, African red pepper, cockspur pepper, American red pepper, garden pepper. So those are just a few names for... So when you see, the main one is, some people will say, oh, I wouldn't ever use cayenne because it's dangerous and it's a stomach irritant, so I use capsicum. It's the same thing. It's just two different names. You know, it's like me calling Melanie or calling her Molly. It doesn't change who she is. Molly's her nickname. And so these are the different things. So when we read here about Ellen White using red pepper as a tea, I said, wow, okay, so this is the only quote or reference that I found where there was specific mention and use of that. So I want to give us some information. We're not going to read the whole of what Jethro Claus says about this, but I want you to hear some of these important points he's got here with this. Red pepper is one of the most powerful herbs we have. We do wonderful things with it that we are not able to do with any other known herb. It should never be classified with black pepper, vinegar, or mustard. And we're going to talk more about mustard today as well. So it should never be classed with black pepper, vinegar, or mustard. These are irritating, while red pepper is very soothing. While red pepper smarts a little, it can be put in an open wound, and that's what he's talking about. You put it in an open wound, it smarts. Oh, and I forgot to get the pictures. I'm going to have to get a deal and do that. I'll do that while you're doing some demonstrations so that we can show them. I want to show you what cayenne is capable of. And I've got some pictures, and I forgot to get it on this other computer here. Okay, so going on. So it smarts a little when you put it in, and I will say by experience, and you'll see that from the pictures, a little more than a little, but it definitely was well worth it. So it works awesome. And so when you put it in, we mentioned this before, we've used red pepper, cayenne, capsicum, whatever word you like to call it. We have used that in open wounds on animals. We've used it on people. We've used it on ourselves to stop bleeding. You can also take it internally to stop bleeding. So it says here, while red pepper smarts a little, it can be put in an open wound, either in a fresh wound or an old ulcer. And it is very healing instead of irritating. But black pepper, mustard, and vinegar are irritating to an open wound and do not heal. Red pepper is one of the most stimulating herbs known to man with no harm or reaction. And I'm going to skip over we'll come back to that. So going on here, he says, from the Greek capito, I bite, a biting plant. So that's what literally it means. The best capsicum is obtained from Africa and South America. That's because they grow the hottest African bird peppers. That's why it's called African bird peppers. They are the hottest. Yes, is red pepper cayenne pepper? Yes, red pepper is cayenne pepper. It is capsicum, African bird pepper. It's all different names for the same thing.
Well, there are different varieties.
Yes,
of peppers.
there are
Like we
different.
can grow little orange habaneros. They're
Yes.
of the capsicum family as well.
Yes, they're all of the same
Considered
family.
a cayenne, but they are like
Way hotter?
800 heat units or something like that. They're very, very warm. 180.
What about the red crush? I mean, what about the crush? The peppers that you buy that's flaky. Is that the same thing?
Red pepper flakes? Yes.
Okay, so when you buy cayenne from the store, such as what I've got here, when you buy this from the store in this kind of a bottle, this cayenne is rated in heat units, HU. And this from the grocery store doesn't have, it's not rated. If you get it from a good herbal supply, they will put the heat unit of it. This is rated at about 5,000 heat units. We got some cayenne. It was a African bird pepper, habanero pepper, I think it was, that was rated at 380,000 heat units. Let me tell you what, that one would lift the top of your hair right off your head. It just a tiny bit on the tip of a finger would do it. My thought was a little bit would go a long ways, and it did. We had that stuff for a long time, and it was.
You didn't need much of
You
it.
did not use it on food. It was just beyond. But as a medicinal agent, it was fantastic.
And to stop bleeding wounds, it was tremendous.
Most of the time,
work
what
well.
we find is about 120,000 heat unit cayenne. What we have from our garden that we grew that's blended up, it was just literally, we dried the peppers and Melanie put them in the Vitamix and ground them up and made powder out of it. This one is not rated. I don't know how to rate it, but I'm going to say it's the 120,000 plus or minus a
I
little.
was
It's
thinking 180.
or 180.
It's
Yeah,
pretty-
it's pretty
hot.
warm.
Yeah.
But it's just hotter cayenne. So the
you
best.
use less at a time.
Yeah. So here he says cayenne pepper, and almost certain remedy for yellow fever and almost every other form of human malady. So when in doubt, you head for the cayenne. A plaster of cayenne is more effective in relieving internal inflammation than a fly blister ever was. Now, a fly blister is and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but a fly blister is where they put maggots on the skin. And it was an old remedy of where, quote, maggots eat the dead flesh, therefore you have good clean flesh and the wound will heal.
Take care of sheep. You'll
Let
see
me,
it
yeah, if
falling
you
out.
take care of sheep in Southern Oregon, you will suddenly discover what maggots do.
They make their own dead flesh as they go.
Yes.
They eat the whole sheep up.
They will eat it. You can hear them crunching on the sheep. It is when there's thousands of them there. It is absolutely just disgusting. And to see that, literally, they'll go under the skin layer,
Under the wool.
under the
the
skin,
skin.
and they will literally eat the sheep
To the
alive.
backbone.
And the juices they spit out causes the flesh to die, and then therefore they eat the dead flesh. So they make the dead flesh as they go. Fly blisters have long since, as a medical treatment for people, have long since been left in the dust because they've realized what a bad thing it is. But here Jethro Kloss talks about this. And he's saying, Cayenne is so much better than ever dreaming of doing something like that, creating a poultice. It also works to relieve rheumatism. Create a Cayenne poultice. So make a poultice. Melanie's going to show you how to make a poultice here in a little bit. You can use it for pleurisy. Pleurisy is another name for pneumonia. Pleurisy would be what we would today call walking pneumonia.
It's the lining of the lung.
It's the lining of the lung that is, but it works well for that.
Excuse me. I went to the hospital one time having chest pain and discomfort, and they told me it was pleurisy.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Yep.
So that would be good for if I have problems like that.
Yes, we're going to show you a remedy for pleurisy and for pneumonia because of the reason we picked Cayenne is because we've had somebody contact us this week and was asking about her son, and his hands were very, very cold. When she felt them, they were cold to the touch, and she was asking about what to do. So we'll talk more of that, but I want to give some more of this background information before we get
On what
into
Cayenne does.
on what it does. So Jethro Kloss here says, I have cured with it in a single night cases of rheumatism that had been for years most distressing. Skipping down, thus it is not only a stimulant, but an antispasmodic, anti-inflammatory, and a restorative. And I'm skipping over some of the points here. Here's one for you. When the stomach is foul, a strong dose of the powder will excite vomiting. It's like, okay, yeah, give it a strong dose. Yeah, I have to admit, I would not want to throw up Cayenne. That would not be a pleasure thing. But you know what? If it's that or worse evils, I guess it's going to quit burning in a few minutes once it is gone. But here's one for you. By the way, I have to say, we never recommend anything that we have not done on. We've not tried it. We've done it to ourselves. We've been there, done that, so we know what it
feels like.
What it feels like. So here we go with the next point. After he says that it will excite vomiting, and an enema of it, Cayenne, and lobelia and slippery elm will relieve the most obstinate constipation.
Bet it would.
It's like, oh yeah.
I know one thing. It takes care, and I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. It takes care of, what do they call it? Where your bowels bleed.
Colitis.
No, it's
not.
I had the other irritable
bowel syndrome.
I got it from taking Cipro, trying to get rid of a
Cipro.
Cipro
Cipro is a heavy-duty antibiotic. Before we really realized we were learning of herbs, but we weren't convicted of Revelation 18:23, and so the doctor that we went to for help for Melanie for her kidneys put her on heavy doses of Cipro, a new drug that had just been released. It gave her, we discovered, the
irritable
bowel syndrome, which is right on the package, one of the side effects. Well, irritable bowel syndrome means
your bowels just start bleeding.
You just bleed. And you will bleed to death. You will die. It will kill you.
So I use Cayenne, but he says put lobelia and slippery elm with it. I know the slippery elm is very slippery. It would probably help
it a
not
little.
Be so incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
Shall I say
Melanie, she said she screamed quite loud. She did it when I wasn't home.
I did.
Because it was very, very painful. So now
I've never been troubled with any bowel trouble.
Problem solved instantly.
One treatment.
One time. Problem solved and never has come back. I forgot to put my bookmarker in here. Where is it? CA. I gotta find there it was. Okay. Capsicum or cayenne, and I'm now taking it out of this little book that we've shared with you before. This is the Louise Tenney Health Handbook. And I want to give you this because of some of the things that it states here that it will do for us. And the reason I'm sharing it this way is I want everybody to see, yes, Tracy's got the book already.
Good job.
3 of them.
Woohoo.
Yeah, we've got a couple of them around here, and we had more, but we share them here and there. And anyway, so for Tracy, I'm on page 160 of the book. Yep. So she probably found it faster than I did. So specific uses, and the reason I got to back up to say the reason I'm sharing it from the book is I want you to see this is not just Mark and Melanie's opinion. I mean, we all have opinions. I want you to see this is from herbalists. If we had time, we'd go into Richard Schultz on Cayenne. He's amazing. Cayenne is his number one go-to, and he was trained under Dr. Christopher, and we've shared about Christopher's book. Anyway, specific uses: heart, circulation. So if the circulation is too much, too fast, too slow, it balances it out. It'll balance. I'm not reading at the moment. It'll balance blood pressure. If the blood pressure's high, it'll decrease it. If the blood pressure's low, it'll increase it. And if it's normal, it won't affect it. So going back to our book here, for circulation, stomach and kidneys, uses a crisis herb, a first aid remedy for most condition, stops bleeding. And I'm going to say internally and externally.
Yes.
Applied externally, it'll stop it. Applied internally, it'll stop it. Heart attacks, strokes, colds, flu, low vitality, headaches, indigestion, depression, and arthritis. Powerful stimulant. Circulation in the body is the key to healing. Used with lobelia for tinnitus and as a nervine. Now, some interesting points here. Vitamin and mineral content. It's rich in zinc. I got to pause there. Anybody heard about a remedy that we should be using for that big C problem that we all had here about
3
years ago? And they said, what was the best thing for it? Zinc.
Lots of zinc.
Lots of zinc was what they were saying for the cure for that.
But they were giving you pulverized rock as zinc.
Yeah.
Not a place to get it that would be organic.
That would be a food that the body could use.
Right.
So, and of course, the cayenne we just read, the capsicum helps with circulation. And so you take it with that, not only do you get zinc, high amounts, it's rich in zinc, not only do you get a lot of zinc, but you also get other things as well as increased circulation to get that out there to where it needs to go. So talk about a powerful remedy. So rich in zinc, high in vitamin A, C, iron, calcium, potassium, and rutin. Moderate amounts of vitamin G. And I went, vitamin G? I've never heard of that. So I looked it up. It's not commonly used or specified that way. It's actually would be another way of what we would say today, B complex. Vitamin B complex is what it was saying. That's what Google says anyway. Magnesium, phosphorus, sulfur, B complex, so it's kind of stated 2 ways here. Small amounts of sodium and selenium. And selenium is one of those that is, we actually had to give the sheep shots of selenium.
Yes.
Go ahead. I'm doing all the talking.
On the ranch, we had to bring in all the sheep at a certain time during their gestation of their pregnancy with the lambs. We had to give them selenium shots. We also gave it to them before we put them in with the rams with A&D shots, so that they would have a high enough count so that they could carry multiple birds.
Carry
the
lambs.
Yes.
So, ailments. Here's the list of ailments that are in this book. Malaria. Boy, I wished I'd have remembered that one when Matthias got malaria and we were in Africa, because we had cayenne peppers, but we had yellow fever. Well, actually, no, we didn't have yellow fever. We had, it's from the water. It's like
Yeah.
yellow fever, and I can't think of it now.
I can't either.
But cayenne would have been good for what we had as well. But being sick and being stressed with all of that, we didn't even think of that. But anyway, ailments, malaria, arthritis, bleeding, blood cleanser, blood pressure equalizer, bronchitis, bruises. So you could use it internally and externally on the bruises. Burns. I've not used it on a burn externally, but I would see absolutely no issue with doing that. Congestion, chills, circulation, diabetes, eyes. Yes, we told you about my experience with cayenne in the eyes. Make a tea and strain it well first, and add some eyebright to it, and a couple of other herbs formula that makes it powerful. Fatigue, fevers, gas, heart, high blood pressure, infection, jaundice, kidney problems, lockjaw, lung problems. With that big C problem we were talking about from a couple of years ago, what's it hit heavy? It hits the lungs. People were dying of pneumonia. So cayenne, it's high in zinc. It works with the lungs. It equalizes talk about a powerful tool. And no, I wouldn't just take cayenne alone in that situation. I'd be taking the whole cabinet. I'd get them all. No, don't just be content with try one, see if that works, and then try another. Hit it hard.
Someone asks how much. I would say a spoonful in warm water. That's the quickest way to get it into the body in mass.
I was wondering how much recommended to lower blood pressure if you do that.
Melanie has been taking a teaspoon of the herb,
Heart herbs.
the heart herb formula, which is the capsicum mixed with the capsicum, the hawthorn berry, and the valerian.
Yeah.
And she takes a heaping spoon of this, much as you can set on it, and puts it in a glass. And we found that tomato juice helps kind of tone down the hot just a little bit. And some reason, hot, spicy tomato juice just seems to go well together. And so she'll put it in tomato juice
4 ounces.
and drink it with at meal times with her. And so that's what she's been using, is a heaping spoon like this of that, and it works very, very well for the heart. Okay, so just a couple more on this list that I wanted to go through. So I said lockjaw, and I said lung problems. Mucus. You want to clear up mucus and phlegm? Take some cayenne. Drink a cayenne tea.
It may seem to create some, but what it's doing is cutting loose.
It's cutting
all
loose
that's
what's there, cleaning it out.
all the way down.
It's good for the pancreas. It's good for pyorrhea, which is the gum disease. Rheumatism, shock sprains, external. So if you have and we'll go to the formula here in Jethro Kloss's book for his sprain and strain liniment that I'm telling you is powerful. When a sprain, you have a sprain, you sprain your ankle severely, you use Jethro Kloss's formula on the sprain, you start putting it on every 15 minutes all day long, and guess what? By evening, you won't know you had a sprained ankle. It's that amazing. So strokes. If somebody's having a stroke or you suspicion they're having a stroke, if they're conscious enough to drink it, put cayenne in water and get them to drink it. It's the most powerful thing you can do. Cayenne dilates the blood vessels. So and it breaks up these clots. It takes where when the red blood cells get kind of stuck and congealed together and clogged together, it will break those apart so that they can flow through That's what's happening. That's why it works so well for the stroke. So cayenne is absolutely amazing for those kind of things. It works for sunburn, for sore throats. You gargle with cayenne with a sore throat. Yeah, it's going to light your fire. It's going to burn. You might want to use a little less cayenne with that, or a cooler cayenne, and do it more often. No sense in torturing yourself. We're not into inhumane torture. It is helpful for tumors, for ulcers, for varicose veins and wounds.
Someone says here, grape juice kills a lot of the heat of it also. I'd not thought to put it in grape juice, but that would be a good idea.
Something to try. To definitely be worth trying. So the sprain, let's go there, and then I'll let you take it while I get some pictures so I can show what we did with it. So in Jethro Kloss's book, page 216, he says, it is one part of a most wonderful liniment, which may be made as follows. So here's the recipe for this wonderful liniment. This is the liniment I was talking about, sprain and strain. This is also the liniment that we used on my neck for ruptured discs. The only side effect is, well, there's two side effects. It stains your clothing and it makes you sneeze when you put it on. So those are the two side effects that we're aware. Well, there is one more that I've noticed. I never used to have any hair at the base of my neck. I've grown hair there. So if you're really wanting to grow hair, it does kind of make the skin a little yellow temporarily, but I've got a spot of hair on the back of my neck that never used to be there. And it's like, okay, fine. I'll take that as a side effect because my ruptured discs they're gone.
Yeah.
They're gone. They say they never healed.
Back.
They have lofted back.
Right.
They've lofted back into place so that I have full range of movement with my head. Okay, example.
He never used to be able to do that.
I couldn't do that after the neck injury. I had almost
2004.
no range of motion, and it's back. And the only time I ever have any issues or pain with it anymore is if I stress really hard with lifting something, straining with the upper body. I will feel some pain in the neck, and guess where I head? I head for my liniment. So here's the recipe. 2 ounces of myrrh gum. Myrrh gum, you can't get that from Pacific Botanicals. You can find it out there. It does not grow in the U.S. We take the chance of being able to get it and hope it's not bad. We just do the best we can and say, Lord, you're going to have to fill the rest.
Bless this herb.
Bless it, this herb. So 2 ounces of myrrh gum, 1 ounce of golden seal, so golden seal powder, and a ½ ounce of African bird pepper. So he wants you to use the hot pepper. He wants you using the cayenne or the hot capsicum. The African bird pepper is the hotter stuff. So here's how you compensate. If you don't have something that is as hot, instead of using a ½ ounce with it, use 4 ounces. Yes? A comment? Okay, so you use more.
Floyd?
Floyd, you...
It's Floyd.
I was going to ask you, what about for high blood pressure?
High blood pressure?
Oh,
That's the heart formula.
take the heart formula.
Which
It'll
is
bring it down.
which is the cayenne, the
Hawthorn
valeria
berry.
or hawthorn berries, and ground. When you order hawthorn berries, get them ground. Melanie learned the hard way. We got them because I got them so much cheaper, and they were whole hawthorn berries. So she put them in the Vitamix, hit the button to powder them, and blew it clean through the side of the Vitamix container. Just ruined it. It went right through it. It was
They're
like putting
very
rocks.
hard.
They're very hard. So you get them as a powder, the hawthorn berries as a powder, and we use we use 1 part of the. Why don't you get the formula? Where's our book?
Over here.
You got it. You want to look that one up real quick?
Yes.
So she'll look up the formula for that. I'll go back to talking about this liniment because we're not quite done with it. So with this liniment, if your cayenne isn't as hot and you know it's not as hot and you've got the others, use more of it. Put in more, double it. We're not talking about a drug that if you take one pill and it's okay and that's good for you, but if you take 3 pills, it'll kill you. We're not talking about drugs that are that way. We're talking about herbs. And there's sometimes you got to be practical about it. It's like, okay, if we're going to be doing a cayenne enema because of irritable bowel syndrome, we may not want to use the hottest cayenne in a very large amount. We may want to keep it to a little less and do what we can so it's not so torturous. So, Richard.
Hey, you're talking about the peppers and the heat of peppers. There's a new Charleston pepper. I can't remember what it's called, but it's hotter than, it's supposed to be something like 10 times or 100 times hotter than a habanero.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's crazy. These guys have been working on it for years, and a few years ago they finally got what they wanted.
Wow. Well, I can tell you, if you're growing pepper, if you're growing capsicum, cayenne, I can tell you how to take any of them and make it much hotter. Get it growing good. Once the peppers start to form, don't give it any more water than you have to keep it alive. Keep it as dry as possible with water. Don't water it. Don't put it out where it gets water. And you will have flame-throwing peppers out of it from lack of water. That's how to... ghost peppers are about the hottest, Ron says here in the chat. Anyway, so back to it. So, you might have to vary these a little bit depending on the heat of what you have. So what he says here, he says, put this into a quart of rubbing alcohol. We've chosen not to use rubbing alcohol. It's a wood resin. Rubbing alcohol is really hard on the person. We've used the grain alcohol, but I have concerns about that. That's making a tincture. We've talked about tinctures. I don't like tinctures. We've already been there, done that one. But we've used it that way. But rereading this here got me thinking. So he says, or take a pint of raspberry vinegar, which of course we wouldn't use vinegar internally, but neither would we use the vodka internally, but it might be better. Anyway, put it in raspberry vinegar and a pint of water. So he's adding a pint of water to the raspberry vinegar. Add the alcohol or vinegar to the powder. Let it stand for a week or 10 days, shaking every day. When we first started doing this, I was like, I want this stuff. I started using it literally the next day. We put it together one day and I started using it the next day. And no, it wasn't as strong, but if you need it right away and you don't happen to have any and you're making it, you literally the following day you could start using it, and you'd have to use more. But we got a couple batches going because by the time the week was up, I'd used the first bottle, putting it on because I saw right away the difference that it was making for me. Anyway, with my neck is what I'm specifically speaking of. This can be used wherever liniment is used or needed. It is very healing to wounds and bruises, sprains, scalds, burns, sunburns. It should be applied freely. We put it in a spray bottle. The only side effect there is if you spray it, it makes it worse. You will sneeze. It'll get you going good. It's not just one sneeze. In fact, I love to do this if I'm in a group and we're talking about herbs or something like that. I will take my spray bottle and go, it's nice. You just go and spray it out like this into the room. And a few minutes later, the people in the front are starting to sneeze.
And cough.
And cough. And
Yeah.
it's like chemical warfare. Anyway, it doesn't hurt anybody. But
Better than bear spray.
Anyway, so wonderful results are obtained in pyorrhea by rinsing the mouth with the liniment or applying the liniment on both sides of the gums with a little cotton or gauze. So getting the gauze on it and putting it in there. So I'm leery of these. I'm thinking about actually trying to make it in vegetable glycerin and seeing what kind of results I get from it for doing that. But that's his liniment. That's what I've seen. And it works and it's powerful. Did you find the heart formula?
In here, all he's doing is showing how to make the hawthorn berry syrup, and it's different than the powder. But I don't have.
Okay, so we'll go by memory. So for the blood pressure, heart, anything to do related with heart. So high blood pressure, low blood pressure. Irregular heartbeat.
Water on the heart.
Anything related to that.
Mitral valves.
You want 1 part hawthorn berries, 1/2 part valerian, and depending on the heat of your cayenne, anywhere between 1/8 to 1/4 part of the cayenne. Talking about cayenne and my nose is getting me, I'm about to sneeze. And I didn't spray anything in here.
Just talked about it.
Mind over matter here. There we go. Okay, got that done. So, with that formula, you can vary it a little bit. So the hawthorn berries, the valerian, and the cayenne, and like we said, a heaping spoonful, a teaspoonful, grape juice, which we've not tried. We're going to try that, or we've done it in water. We've done it. In fact, we did it in water for quite a while, but it's much easier in the juice to get it down, and that is a wonderful thing to help with all of the heart different issues related with heart.
So we have a comment here. One says ghost peppers are about the hottest. Someone else says be careful with the extremely hot ghost peppers, etc. Not recommended as they may peel the skin, may cause blisters, and etc. Some have over 1 million
heat units. They put SHU and. Yeah, I've heard it. I've seen it different ways. I forget what the S is.
But yeah.
But the heat is, yeah.
But the heat units.
You know, there is something about being practical with all of this. We have seen, Scoville heat units. Right. Okay. Is the S.
We once had a lady stay with us that had a scar on her leg where someone had crushed garlic and minced it and put it on a sore or an ulcerated sore on her leg, and it took care of the sore, but it left a scar on her leg from it because the person didn't know to put something else with it. For instance, if I made a mustard plaster with just mustard, it would burn the skin. It would blister the skin. So we use the white flour, and
we're going to talk about that one and show you how in a moment.
Show you how to make that, yeah.
So anyway, that's some things with the cayenne, with the for different uses. So it's kind of the go-to herb for any emergency. And so
somebody's asking here, how often do you take a spoonful of the formula per day? It depends on your situation. If you have somebody who has clogged arteries, the doctor has said, okay, you need a triple bypass because all your veins and arteries are clogged coming in and out of the heart. You should start out with one of these spoonfuls a day in water, or not water, but your juice or whatever. But with the meal is what I'm saying. Put it with the meal so that it doesn't so shock the system. It's got other things happening there in the stomach and it just doesn't hit all at once. Because if you knock too much of that plaque loose, it can really send them end over tea kettle. And if it does anyway, then start giving them the teaspoon of cayenne in a mug of water. of hot water to just open everything up so that it can go on through.
Go on through.
So,
So if it's a
work-
heart attack, every 15
Yeah,
minutes,
every
and you
15
could use
minutes,
that
yeah.
mix of herbs for a heart attack. You know, giving them a spoonful every 15 minutes. If it's just trying to strengthen the heart, once a day might be enough. You might want to, if it's a real critical, somebody that's really low, that's just struggling with that, they may need it two or three times a day.
Yeah.
How much cayenne did you say? How many parts cayenne? Is that just adjustable according to your needs?
Yeah.
We use 1/8 to 1/4, depending on how hot the cayenne is in that.
Thank you.
You know, and I have to admit, the ghost peppers, in my thoughts, it'd just be like way over the
Miserable.
top, too hot. Let's not even. Besides that, it sounds like it's something that's been people have worked to engineer, and it may be an okay way of doing that. But we can go back to the ones that's called cayenne, the red pepper, the capsicum, the Spanish pepper, the African pepper, African bird pepper. We can use those. There's different heats. 120,000 heat unit cayenne we have found to be just right in there as a nice number. I've seen 80,000 available, 120, and I've seen it hotter. Gets above 120. To me, it's just over the top. So you can use a lot less. You know, would I get it? Yeah, I'd get it. We'd use it if that was all I had. Yes, we'd use it. You just be careful and don't use as much.
Right.
So we want to talk about with the lung issues and with the things, something to do to help that with the respiratory issues and whatnot. So Melanie is going to show you something with mustard while I go and get some pictures. And I'll just give you that to let you share that, and
Okay.
I'll let you do that. I'll be right back.
So here we have in pamphlet 144, page 6.4, when the head is congested, if the feet and limbs are put in a bath with a little mustard, relief will be obtained. And when we give the fever baths, I also put about a quarter cup. This is our mustard for that. We put about a quarter cup of this powdered mustard into the bath for opening the pores so that the clogged pores of the body, because one of the first things that happened, I don't know how many of you realize it, but back in the 1800s in America, they would tar and feather a criminal. And literally that was a death sentence, because when you tar and feather somebody, the body can no longer breathe, and our pores are made so that they're open, so that they can take in air. And when you when they tarred and feathered a person, it would close those pores off, and they would literally suffocate to death, because you cannot breathe in enough air. Even if you gulp it in or gasp it in with your mouth open, you cannot breathe enough air to take care of the body's needs. Sickness comes when people do not bathe daily and scrub those pores open with some sort of a rough towel, or we like to use the jutsu cloths that come from Japan. They're made out of a sea coral, I believe it is. And we use those because they're rough. Or I'll also use a fingernail brush to brush open those pores. Dry brushing the skin every day is one of the things we do when we have a cancer patient come, or a person that's really ill. Just dry brushing the skin to open those pores and get them going. And so we also use, like I said, the mustard, and we put that in the bath. This type of mustard should never be put internal, like we read in the Spirit of Prophecy, and also Jethro Kloss, Mark just read it to you, that the mustard is, I don't know if you can see this. This is just a powdered, this is the seeds of the mustard. Now, Ellen White talks about how she ate mustard greens. Those are different than this. They're not injurious to the system as this is. So I'm taking some of this. I'm going to show you how to put this on if you have congestion in your lungs. We will take, got carried away here. We will take about that much. This will be enough for your plaster. It's probably what? 3 spoonfuls, 2.5 or 3 spoonfuls of this. And then we want a carrier, something that's not going to burn the skin, because just putting the mustard on straight is going to be way too intense for your skin. It will burn. So we're going to use this white flour, which I've bought for plasters and the like. And I'm going to add like double the amount of that. I keep knocking it off. I can't get it. Oh, there it's steep. Okay. So we're going to put this together, and you stir it up well. And then this can go on, and you put it on for about 10 or 15 minutes. The patient will tell you when it needs to come off, because the longer it's on, the hotter it gets.
So one thing that you don't want to do, we shared this with a couple that
he was real sick.
He was really sick. A lot of respiratory issue, sick with just a flu virus, but he had been sick for weeks and hacking and coughing,
They
just
finally called us
gasping.
and said, "What do we do to break this up?" She had tried fomentations, but I don't know if she was doing it correctly. We never were able to go see them and see what was going on. So I said, what about a good old-fashioned mustard plaster? By the way, this used to be in doctor's books in America, because when I was a child, I had pleurisy, and my mother took me to this old family physician in Dallas, Oregon, and he said, "Oh dear, that's bad. I think she's got pleurisy. I don't know what to do. I don't trust what they give in these new fangled drugs." This man was elderly. And my mom said, "Well, I know what would my grandmother would do. She would have made an old-fashioned mustard plaster." She said, "But I don't know how to do it." And that old doctor, I remember him sitting there and rubbing his chin for a minute, and he goes, "Just a minute." And he goes into another room, and he comes out with this great big thick old book that looked about like one of these. And he opens it up, puts his glasses on the end of his nose, opens it up and reads this fine print. And he told my mom, "Take a cup of white flour and a teaspoon of mustard powder and enough water to make a paste." He says, "Mix it all together and put it on a cloth." It said cotton cloth, but we have paper towels nowadays because they're disposable. And you just put this. I still got white lumps in it because I'm not getting too vigorous here. Make it real thin so that it will kind of ooze through the cloth. And you put it on your cloth, and I'm just going to do a little bit of this. You put it on your cloth and spread it out, and then fold it closed and put it on your patient's chest. So this is your patient. Put it on your patient's chest, and it will feel cold at first, and it will not feel like anything is happening, but given 5 minutes, it'll start feeling warm. And then it starts feeling really warm, and in 10 or 15 minutes, they're going, "Ow, ow, can you take this off?" That's what happened with the person.
So, yes, the guy that...
Tell him what happened.
So, he was
Those 2 cups of flour you mix there? 2 cups? You mix 2 cups? Or
No.
It's about 1 cup of flour, and it was a little more mustard than that.
And she usually...
I used 2 spoons of mustard.
So, the area here, with the size she did this, she usually makes this...
I usually make them large enough to put over the whole chest.
So, yeah, cover the whole chest area.
And then I would use the rest of that for a plaster on the back, because you have 2 sides to your lungs. So you need one for the back and one for the front. And if you're living alone, you can make this and lay it on a plastic, on a, I would say
Saran
probably, you would probably not want to do it on your bed, but put it on plastic.
Put some towels down, put
Or-
some plastic down, lay it on there, and lay down on top of
lay
it.
down on top of it, and then get up and shower off.
So what happened with this gentleman is she did up the mustard plaster, and Melanie had forgot to mention the paper towel, and thinking her being older and whatnot, she would just remember and know, didn't really think about it. So anyway, and he was quite a hairy man, and so she
poured it
puts
on.
it on his chest, just pours it and plastered it on his chest. Well, about 30 minutes later, after
The phone rings, and I hear in the background, "Ah! Ah! Ah!" And I said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "How do I get it off? I'm pulling it off, but the hair's coming too." And I said, "No, didn't you use a cloth?" And she said, "No." And she says, "It's right on his hair." And I said, "Put him in the shower."
give him a cold shower, he'll be glad for it.
Well, he
And-
was glad for it, but it all ran down, and there's soft tissue down below. That poor man suffered. So don't forget the
the
cloth.
paper towel,
Okay.
or a thin cloth. You could use a thin, like what we used to use for dishcloths when,
Or you can use an old
or
bed
not,
sheet.
not a dishcloth, but a towel. My mom would use. She used a flour sack that she'd hemmed up for using for her drying dishes and whatnot.
Put it in that.
So
Somebody says here, paper towels are harmful for you. It has harmful chemicals. It does. You're right. So
You can use a diaper, right?
Use
What
a
about
cotton
diaper?
sheet. You can use a diaper. You can use a tea towel, as he's saying. Yes, any of the above. So whatever you have, just know that it's going to be really hard to get that glue out of that. You might have to. I used to have stacks of cotton sheets that we used for treatments. And I've literally, in 30 years, I've run out of them all. We got them early on from a motel that was going
out of business.
going out of business or going to polyester sheets or something. They got rid of their cotton sheets, and I had a whole stack of them. But over the years, I've cut them up and used them up, and it's been within the last probably 7 or 8 years that we've gone to using paper towel for this and that instead of
So you
because
could
I don't
use
have
it
any.
directly to your skin, but it's too hard to clean up.
It would be
won't
awful
hurt.
hard to
Yes.
get off. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because when you want it off, you want it
Want it
off right away. You don't want to wait.
Play with it for 20 minutes.
Okay, so I told you. Now I told you that I'd show you some of the wonderful things that you can do with Cayenne.
How come that's not coming on?
I don't know. There it goes.
Would it be any problem to use like the blue pads that you put under people, or
Not at all.
Not at all.
We still
Nursing-
have a lot of those. Yes.
They work
Nursing
very
home
well,
pads,
I
yes.
Yes.
I've even used
Use
cherry
the-
pads for small areas. You can put it on there and just slap it around
Correct.
your neck or wherever.
Those are nice. We lay those down on the bed, and then I'll put like an old. We have old shower curtains. I'll put on top of that to keep from soiling the mattress, because you don't want to ruin your mattresses. We've done that in the past.
Okay, now if anybody has a real squeamish stomach, you may not want to look at what I'm going to show you.
Caution, this is real life coming
This is
up.
real life coming. This is my finger a little more than a year ago. I stuck it in the skill saw.
Like an inexperienced fellow with only
Yes,
30 years of
the
construction.
first time that I'd ever done this, and I did a good job.
Whatsoever thy hand findeth
So,
to do.
yes, do it with all your might. Are you ready? Here you go.
Okay. He took the end off.
So
Literally. Took the end off. So,
I cut the end of my fourth finger on my left hand. I took it off. Yes, I just stuck it in, and there was nothing to put back on. And I calmly turned to Matthias and I said, Matt, go get the first aid kit.
And don't let Mom come out of the trailer, because I was in there making lunch, and he knows I would have passed out if I'd have seen him that way. So.
So this was, by the way, after we'd cleaned it off. We were, I was actually, I think this was this was the next day I was replacing bandage. This wasn't the same day of the injury. So anyway, Matt went in to grab the first aid kit, but he also grabbed the Cayenne, the bottle like this, because we had a bottle of this in the trailer. And he came out with the first aid kit, and I'd sat down. I was shocky, fully with it, but shocky. And I said, Matt, he said, Dad, I brought the Cayenne out. And I said, okay, pour some in your hand.
Because it was bleeding all over.
And
that's what I don't do. I don't do blood.
Blood was everywhere on it. So he poured a big pile in his hand, and I took my finger, it was this hand, and I just took it and I went like this, and I stuck it right into that Cayenne. And yes, it was very hot, but my finger was already throbbing and hurting like crazy. So, I stuck it in there and did it. And then what we worked it around a little bit. And then what he did is, as I pulled that out, and he dumped that on the ground because we were outside, and I'm still sitting there, and I had grabbed the finger, kind of put some pressure on it, and to help slow bleeding. But when he put the Cayenne on, it went from like pumping it out to just oozing. And so then he put Cayenne onto a gauze pad that he pulled out of my first aid kit, and got some medical tape out, and I stuck my finger into that, and we pulled it up over the finger, and we wrapped it up. And that was what we did for day one for it. So what I want to do now is, I'm going to go back real quick. So there's the picture of my finger again, for those that could see it. I took off a pretty good chunk. I mean, I took about a quarter of the fingernail, took the end of the finger off. So let me now switch it over to our deal. I'm going to go over to our projector here, our deal here. So let me go this way first. Let me show the end.
So which one?
So number 4.
Number 4.
So there's the fourth finger.
That's this one.
And you can see that. So let me turn it over this way. You can see and if I bring my other hand in here, if you look at the difference, this is now my right hand, the difference in the length of my fingers, there's hardly any difference of that fourth finger. It may ever be so slightly shorter.
Huh? They discovered that the parking brake is
somebody go ahead and mute them, Melanie. They got unmuted.
Yeah.
So it may be slightly shorter. There is a scar across here, but that's not from cutting the finger off. That was when I stuck it in the sheep shear a few years prior. So anyway, you compare the fingers. They look.
Bernice, I'm gonna.
I have my finger. I should show this. Let me go back to this real quick here. I have yet, and it's been about a year, I have about that much of an area that's numb yet.
Duh. I would be too if somebody did that to me.
Just a little tiny bit of the tip of that finger is still just a little numb. There yet. In other words, I don't have feeling. It kind of feels a little dead to the touch when I touch it. But so that's power of Cayenne. So not only did it cauterize the bleeding, what I used on that is the Melanie, while you're out there, grab the salve.
That's what I went for.
Okay.
Because I knew we forgot to bring
You know
it
where
in.
I was going with it.
Yeah.
So, I used the Cayenne to start with, and then what I went to using is something it's Dr. Christopher's black ointment. This is not black salve that's made in Tennessee that has lye in it that will eat holes in your body. Don't use it. We've run across some folks with their black salve, and it's dangerous stuff. We've seen the devastation it does. This is black ointment. Let's see, put it over there under the projector. So there's the.
Well, that's not black salve. You're saying it's a different product than black salve, or is it the same?
Yes.
Yes, this is Christopher's.
This is
black
Christopher's
ointment.
black ointment. And
And
Well,
it's
that's not the same as black salve.
no, its
No.
contents are different than the black salves of the southeast that we've run into.
and we just get it from Christopher's deal. It's easier to get it,
Anyway,
and it works.
he went through one of these bottles.
What is it? 2 ounces?
It's 2 fluid ounces, and we would just put this on. Put
it on the end of my finger?
It's awful
Put a-
thick. They can't see that yet.
Oh.
It's an awful thick salve. It does not pour. It's there to stay. You have to dig it out like it's shown. But we would dig it out and carefully put it on the end of his finger, and we used that for what, 2 months, 3 months.
It took a couple of months for it to pretty much be healed over. As long as there was an open sore, even after the sore even after it had kind of closed across, I was still putting it on because it helped keep the skin soft on there. And I went without it for a few days, and my finger was more tender, so I just kept putting it on and using a fingertip bandage and knuckle bandage, I guess is what they call them. I like them for fingertips, but anyway, worked well. So that's the kind of thing. And I had somebody tell me when I showed it to them,
Go to the
doctor.
hospital.
You're going to have to go to the hospital. They're going to have to amputate that finger, or you're going to lose it. That was the response that I got. They're going to have to amputate that. They'll have to take it clear off. They were saying that I would have to take it off at the middle knuckle. So I'd have been basically without a finger, and all I have is a little tiny numb spot, and I'll bet within the side of 6 months to a year that'll be gone completely, and I will have complete full feeling again there. We'll see, but even if I don't, I have a slight bit of numbness at the end of my finger, but it's there, it works, I can bend it, it moves, there's nothing wrong.
So if you had a little kit with 10 herbs in it, and we'll go through those 10 herbs, the first one should be cayenne.
Yes.
Because if you come into an issue where you're spurting blood like that and you need to stop it, you need cayenne. Even if you don't like taking it internally, you need it for
External.
medicinal uses.
Somebody
and so
says
forth.
here in the chat, would the cayenne work with Morton neuroma, loss of feeling in the feet?
Yes. So would a mustard...
Mustard plaster would work?
well, not a mustard plaster, but a mustard,
Mustard bath. So
bath.
I was going to say, my thought right off, just with that question, I would get a 5-gallon bucket of water and put either some cayenne in it or some mustard powder in it. And I would have hot water in that 5-gallon bucket. Hot as water as possible could stand, not so hot that it's going to burn the skin, but hot as could be stood. And I would have a second bucket filled with ice water. And put your both feet, always treat both. If you're on something like that, even if you can't get both in the bucket for some reason, switch back and forth. But treat the one foot and then treat the other foot, but always do both. If you have an eye problem in the left eye, treat both eyes. But with that, 3 minutes of hot, put them in the hot, put it in for 3 minutes, Move your feet in the water. The body makes an insulator around itself. So you put it in and it's like really hot, but in a few seconds it's like, oh, that's not bad at all. Stir the water and you'll think twice of that. And
Then go to the second bucket.
then go 3 minutes there, then go to the cold, spend 30 seconds in the cold.
with ice with
ice.
ice in it, and move your
Move
feet.
it, because the body will create that protective shield around it again. Move it. What you're doing, what's happening there by doing that is you're bringing the circulation and you're pushing it away. So you're forcing the circulation to come by the hot. And by adding the cayenne or the mustard powder to it, you're actually increasing that that flow, that blood flow to it. And then when you go to the cold, you're forcing it back up and out. So what happens is, as you bring the blood, life is in the blood. You bring the blood, then you bring. So I was looking at the chat here. So you bring the blood, and you then take, when it goes away, when you push it away, you're taking the debris away. Something to keep in mind when you're cleansing debris of any kind like that, things that are there that are problems, out of that, it's going to go, where does the blood get filtered? It goes to the liver. So if the liver's not doing well, because it's compromised because of taking a lot of pharmaceutical things, you might need to be doing something to help with liver support. I don't know that we got time to go there. We'll try to catch that on another day. Or look it up in the books. Don't just wait for us to give it. Liver support. Also kidney bladder support, because ultimately that's where it's going to end up. And so that's something that we early on tended to forget. We'd work diligently at solving the problem, but forgetting to help those extra things, the eliminating things, so that to make sure that everything. So doing that treatment, make sure you drink enough water.
When we have a person come now, and we're going to be giving them the hot, cold treatments, which bring the blood, take the blood away, etc. And there's a lot of movement in the body that hasn't happened literally in years. One of the things that I do is I will put them on a regime of teas. Our first tea will be the kidney bladder tea to clean out the elimination things, and we'll do that for 3 or 4 days, and then I'll switch to a liver detox tea. You don't want to start with the liver detox tea first, because if your kidneys are backed up, you're going to end up with a mess. So you start with the elimination tea of the kidney bladder tea first, which is Christopher's, which we can give you next week because we're over time. Then you go to 4 or 5 days of the liver detox. And then switch back to the kidney tea. So in the 3 months time, you've gone back and forth to make sure all those elimination things, the blood purifier, etc., and the elimination tract is cleaned out. So like he said, that's very, very important. Somebody asked here how...
Is this help for any kind of lung issues? So the mustard plaster does work for any kind of lung issues.
Yes.
Would you, Melanie, I'll let you talk because I've been talking a lot today. Would you only use the mustard plaster if somebody had a lung problem, or would you do something else?
No, I would be giving them pine needle tea or mullein lobelia tea or lungwort tea, like Tracy showed you last week. Pleurisy root. I would also try and give them hot baths. If you are on your own and you can't do the intensive fever bath, then get in a tub. If you could just get some bentonite clay and put about half a cup of bentonite clay in your tub water, that pulls toxins 1,000 pounds per square inch. So put your bentonite clay in your tub and get in there and soak in that for an hour to an hour and a half. Another good thing is the charcoal bath. Those are also an excellent puller and healer and detoxer.
So I got to give some instruction
But
with the
finish
charcoal
with the
bath.
cold shower.
Yes. So with a charcoal bath, the first time we did it, we used, we got our charcoal. We buy a 5-gallon bucket from a place. I'm just going to give the name of the place. Don't go looking it up today. It's called Charcoal House, and you have to call them to get it. They have it. You can order online, but you can't get the bulk ones like online. You've got to call them. Anyway, so I had the regular charcoal. I thought charcoal was charcoal. It was the coconut charcoal. Well, if you take a bath in the coconut charcoal, coconut is very oily, coconut oil, and you will be really pink when you get done scrubbing, getting that off of your skin.
It doesn't
to
come
start
off the
with.
skin well, and it doesn't come off of whatever it touches in the bathroom well. It's a job cleaning it up.
We have learned that you can get a hardwood charcoal from them, and
it's not oily.
So it
comes right off.
So we use we don't buy a 5-gallon bucket of the coconut one, but we use the coconut charcoal for internal use because it's more pulling. It's stronger. It's more powerful. But we use the hardwood charcoal for the bathtub because it will, as you take the charcoal bath, it works well. It cleans up nice. It'll take your stained bathtub and make it pretty white for you. And when you rinse off in the shower, it is a rinse. It's not a deep scrubbing job that takes a half an hour or more. And yes, I've been there, done that one before. So somebody is going on here. Somebody's put in the how much.
I just answered.
You just answered there. So they were asking when I was talking about the buckets of the water. What did you tell them? So I'm telling them the same
4
thing.
4 gallons of water in a 5-gallon bucket. You're going to have room
with
to put
2
your feet
heaping
in.
tablespoons of cayenne. That sounds about right.
Yeah. And then ice cubes in your other one.
And ice cube, yeah. And the other one.
your
There was
cold water.
another one there. The School of Natural Healing. Let us work on that during the week. We'll see if we can't help you find a good one for the
Text
book.
me, whoever's asking. Oh,
Tracy.
okay, Tracy. Yeah, I'll get with you this week if you want to find one.
So
Back to the lungs. I've mentioned this before, but those cardamom pods that have the seed in them, put one of those or 2 of those in your mouth and chew up the seeds, spit out the hull. It's like doing an inhaler. They really open your lungs up.
Awesome. I did not know that. Cardamom seed?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Every little bit
yes.
helps. I love this.
Yes,
Learn more every
we're
day.
always learning more.
Awesome.
We definitely
What's
don't.
cardamom seed good for?
She says chew them up and just breathe as you're chewing. It would be like, I think, taking peppermint oil when you're kind of stuffed up. It opens up the pathways to the lungs, she says.
What if you make a tea with it and drink the tea?
I don't know. You just put a pod, and my neighbor has bad asthma. He's been in the hospital a couple of times. He found about the cardamom, and he doesn't even use his inhalers hardly. He just uses the cardamom 2 seeds every morning.
Wow.
It's really doing wonders for him. I've used it. It works. I've recommended it to a lot of people. That
Do a tea. Do a tea.
Cardamom and ginger tea.
Yes.
That's
That-
good.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds like it would be a powerful help. Yeah.
Can you spell the name?
Cardamon.
Yeah, just like it sounds. Cardamom. Yeah.
I got mine at the health food store. I couldn't find it in the grocery store.
Yeah. Where we got, that's something we should talk to just briefly as we finish up here. I think Melanie took it out of here, but the large container of mustard, restaurant supply is a good source for doing that.
Cardamom, Cardamon is how they say they're spelling it here. So
Yeah.
for those.
Yeah, he's
Can't see it.
Oh, wait, he's got OM.
Huh?
It's CARDAMOM.
Hey, yeah, okay.
Cardamom.
Okay.
Cardamom.
Thank you.
So anyway, cayenne is one of your first things that you want in your as your emergency kit of herbs, things to have on hand, so that it's there and available, because it is a multi-purpose tool. Better than a crescent wrench.
Yes.
Better than a
Yes. Sure enough. Okay.
And I was going to, I thought I had, where was it? There was something else that I was going to share with them on this. But I don't know what it was, so I guess we're out of time, so we'll...
Yeah, somebody put in the chat, thank you, how vitamin D is made from slaughterhouse to bottle. Even if you get a hold of the kind that doesn't come from animals, it's still put together. The carrier is the ergot of rye, which is the same thing they make LSD out of. It takes out the frontal lobe, it takes out the liver.
And I did find
So.
one. I got to do a little more research on it, but I'm pretty sure I found a vitamin D in a supplement form that is not made from that. But I've got to do a little more digging. But the standard
sunshine.
common ones
Just give
are.
some sunshine.
Yeah,
Of course,
sunshine is the
we're
best
trying
one.
to help some people who live in very foggy and areas that don't get much sunshine, and that's why he's looking for that, because
What was that in vitamin D you just said?
ergot of rye.
Ergot.
Ergot. ERGOT.
And it comes from where?
It comes from the rye plant. It's actually it's a kind of black mold. It's the same thing they use to make
It's
LSD.
The main ingredient.
It kills the frontal lobe, and it gives you fatty liver. It shuts down the liver because it's so unrecognizable by the body. The liver cannot function when it's put in the body.
So how do you know you have it in your vitamin D? Is it listed as the?
No,
ingredient?
it's in vitamin A, vitamin D1, D2, D3. All the vitamin Ds that are made. That's the carrier that they put it with to make it work.
That's what it's derived from.
That's what. Yeah.
And we learned that from some physicians
In the 60s.
in the 1960s. Melanie heard it when she was recording it off of one of the Hohen tapes. They were talking, and
At a
we've got
camp meeting
that.
they had.
But now we can't figure out which
I
tape
can't-
it was on, so that we can get it on the, because we want to make that available. It will become available sooner or later, but we want to get it available and it to people. So
10
that we
herbs
can-
of the first aid kit. Come next Sabbath and we'll tell you what all they are, and we'll be going through each one. The first one was cayenne. Let me write
I
myself
don't know
a
that we'll
note.
have time to do all 10,
We
but
won't
we can
do all
give
10,
the
but
list.
we'll give the list next Sabbath. I never brought it here today.
I don't have it in my head memorized. But
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question about cooking grains?
Yeah.
sure.
I think it was Agatha Thrash. I don't know who I heard that from years ago, that like oatmeals or different kind of grains that needed to be thoroughly cooked like for hours nearly, or it could cause some sort of brain issue. And I was kind of thinking, well, they have the mucilix and stuff on the counter, but you can even soak it overnight in milk and eat it, they say.
That's what they say.
I remember something about that. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, it's not really good for you. That's why baked oats is better than quick cooked oats. You bake oats for an hour in the oven. It's much, much easier of digestion.
It's easier
for you.
digestion, yes.
Yeah.
Although oats is probably the least offender on that. If you want more information on that, we won't go through it all today, but if you have Back to Eden, one of the original book, by the way, we've talked, you've all heard us talk about book changes with Spirit of Prophecy, and they've changed what he said. Well, guess what? That's why we talk about the 20th edition with the Christopher book. That's why we talk about the old Back to Eden book. You get a new Back to Eden book,
It's a lot different.
it's a lot different. It's missing a lot of good stuff. They've changed those as well. So if you get the old Back to Eden, the one we've got, I was looking to see if I could find a date here real quick. Well, this was
1939.
copyrighted in 1939. We have the 16th printing in 1968, but I've seen some newer ones yet that were weak. Anyway, page 81 in our book has page 81 has a good amount of information about oatmeal and rolled oats and the things that are there. It talks about the protein and the nutrition levels and whatnot. He's got a good section on that in here on the rolled oats, which is answering with Donna's question with that. So
Hang on a second. I'm
got
answering
another?
a question.
Okay.
Yeah. When you Google this, that's what comes up still. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
So, is ergot still used in the making of vitamin D?
Right there.
Today, doctors still use medications that contain ergot compounds to treat severe migraine and prevent bleeding after birth. No, that's not on vitamin D. Okay, they're not. Because I never put the whole thing in. That's why. The last time I looked it up, which has been about 5 months ago, Lizette,
Ergot of rye
it was
used
still
for
being
making
used.
vitamin
The
D?
fungus of ergot off of the rye grain and some of the wheats was still used for vitamin D because it's so it's a carrier that just puts it right where it's needed in a hurry. But its side effects are tremendously debilitating. So yeah, it's still used. Anyway.
Well, I'm going to say it's we've seen it, we've read it on places where it's still being used, but they are also now saying that, as I just did a search, I found here that they're taking it from fish liver oil or lanolin.
No, that's the vitamin D part.
Right.
That's not the carrier, which is
Okay,
ergot of rye.
So, anyway.
I'm gonna kind of point out one other thing real quick. PEG, I think it was in the shots, and it's highly allergenic. And I was at my dentist's office getting my teeth cleaned, and I pointed out to her that it's in the Sensodyne toothpaste. I said, I'm not using it anymore. I saw it on the I'm not using it. So you might want to watch out for PEG. I also found there's some prenatal vitamins with a bunch of dyes. I couldn't even believe it. So everybody needs to be checking labels carefully.
Yes.
Yes. Usually the rule of thumb in our house is if you can't say it, it's probably not safe
You
to
can't
eat it.
pronounce what's
If you
in
can't
it,
pronounce it,
don't put it on or in your body. Okay.
and of course now that we have Google, that can be a real benefit.
Yes.
We
search
to
everything.
search what it is, figure out and search it in Google. What is the source of whatever?
Yeah.
And keep in mind, not everything Google says is correct. Use your common sense. Do a little looking. Look and see. Don't just go with the first thing that you get. Dig a little deeper. Do some research, and then make your
Okay, I
Opinions.
just see this article posted is listed ingredients. Here it is again. Drugs are reaching even into the vitamin supplement world. Oh my, yes. That's why we encourage people to get off their supplements. They're literally killing themselves with supplements. How vitamin D is made from slaughterhouse to bottle. A famous supplement's journey from start to finish. Here's how we are being told as vitamin D is made. And over, hand me the green book. Over and over, Ellen White told us, Mark and I just both read this again last night and this morning. Ellen White tells us more sunshine, get all the sunshine you can get. Doctors want you out of the sunshine. They say it causes skin cancer and all kinds of cancers, but no. The spirit of prophecy tells us cancers, even skin cancer, come from the meat products we put in our bodies. If you're eating meat, stay out of the sun, okay? You'll get cancer. Because those tumors and humors you're gulping down with your meat are going to give you cancer. But if you're on God's plan and God's diet, get all the sunshine you can. That's where the vitamin D is. So it's not going to hurt you. Yeah. So Cayenne, we've seen wonderful things from it here, and we praise the Lord for His herbs,
for the
given
healing
for the
herbs.
service of man.
Okay, let's have a prayer and close. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come thanking you for today, for the herb of the field that you have given for the service of each one of us, that it may be a help for us to be strengthened and to be well. Father, we want to present our bodies a living sacrifice, not half dead. And so we pray that as we see that the world as a whole has gone after spiritualism, that you will help us as we follow after our Savior and our King, that we may follow the instruction in the word that you have given, and that we may be strengthened by it. Bless, guide, and direct us, and lead us, that we may be found faithful. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.